Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing the Xero and QuickBooks integration for property managers. So that would be the people on our system that are using rent charge as their main transaction type to receive rent. And then upon receiving the rent, they'll be remitting rent to the landlord and charging a management fee on top of the rent that's received. All the information is strictly private and confidential of Arthur Online. The agenda for today's webinar is I'm going to be going over the syncing basics for both systems, how to sync, how to schedule an automatic sync and view the individual sync logs themselves. And then I'm going to be also talking about how to sync from an individual tenancy. I'm going to be first looking at Xero and then moving on to QuickBooks after that. I'm also going to be talking about how to reconcile rent within our accounting softwares that we integrate with. I'm going to be talking about the standard rent payments, how to deal with overpayments, underpayments, part payments. Then also going to be talking about undoing reconciliation and how to go about removing and redoing on Xero and undoing reconciliation in QuickBooks as well. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about how to handle property owner remittances on both systems. And then reconciling those remittances in both the accounting softwares as well. After the demo portion of the webinar, we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions as the webinar goes on, just drop them in the chat box or in the Q&A box and I will answer them at the end. And it can be very general as well. If you have any questions about the integration as a whole, I will do my best to answer them at the end. So now I'm going to be moving on to the demo portion of the webinar. To get to the Xero screen within Arthur, you want to head to Financials on the left-hand side. And on our Financial Add-ons box at the top here, we have our Go to Xero screen box. If you click within there, it will bring you to the summative Arthur Xero screen. This is going to display all the elements of the system which are connected to Xero. So we have account codes, that's going to be your transaction types, and Xero account codes, bank accounts, so your individual bank accounts are going to be mapped to their counterparts in Xero. Then we've got contacts, tenants, units, and tax rates. So you can click within all of those aspects here on the right-hand side and view the mapping. To do a system-wide sync, you just want to head to Synchronize here on the right-hand side. As you can see, we've got a couple of different boxes at the top here. We've got one which is titled Mode that allows you to select a certain type of sync that you want to run. Often clients will use this tool just to make a sync a little bit more specific and quicker, because if I was to select payment, it would only sync the payments in and out of the system. So there'd be less data and therefore would be a bit quicker sync. Synchronize all records just means that you will be syncing all previously synced transactions as well. So only use synchronize all records if instructed by support. But if you were to just do a normal system-wide sync, you'd select mode to all and then just click the blue button here, synchronize. To schedule an automatic sync, you want to head to the right-hand side here to synchronize history. This page is going to show all the different syncs that have occurred on the system. So we've got a list of previous syncs that have occurred on my particular Arthur account, the times that they started and they ended. To view the individual sync log itself, just click view log here on any one of them. And here you're going to be able to view every single line and every action which has taken place during the sync. This can be very helpful for identifying any problems which might have occurred on the sync. Also, we have a little shortcut here at the top, which allows you to identify any warning messages or error messages that occurred during the sync. So you can pinpoint anything that you think may have gone wrong. Lastly, you're going to be looking at how to do a tenancy specific sync. Sorry, actually, we're going to be looking at the configuration quickly before that. So to set an automatic sync, just need to click to configuration there on the right-hand side. And this allows you to select any custom frequency you'd like. Right now, I had it set on every day at 9:07. However, I'm going to change it to every other day. And I'm going to change it to 6 a.m., a couple hours before I start work. What this allows me to do is run an automatic sync on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 6 a.m. Without me having to do anything. So any data that's added to Xero or Arthur will be automatically synced at these times. So I'm just going to click update, and there we go. That new scheduled sync has been updated for us. As I was saying, one last way that we could sync the tenancies with Xero is just by going to tenancies here on the left-hand side. Clicking within the tenancy reference, which will bring us straight to the summary page here. And anything added on this statement, we can sync by going to more and then synchronize this tenancy with Xero. What that's going to bring us to is the specific sync page for this individual tenancy. So if I was just working on one tenancy today and I wanted to just sync over the transactions that are in this tenancy, I would do that here. So let's head into Xero now and look at some different types of reconciliation we can do. So to get to the reconciliation page, all you need to do is go to Dashboard. And in the respective bank account, I'm just going to use the shortcut and click Reconcile Items. That's going to bring me straight to the reconciliation screen. To jump to the page where the dates of my transactions are. And just to break this page down a little bit, on the left-hand side, we have all the bank statement lines, whether being a spent or received transaction. These can either be imported manually via a CSV, Excel spreadsheet, or you can also connect your live bank feed to Xero. So any transaction which is happening on your live bank feed will appear on the left here. On the right-hand side is any invoice, payment, transaction which has been added or synced over to Xero. And it's going to give you its best suggestion in terms of which transaction it thinks is best to be matched with the left-hand side. So if we look at the statement of the tenancy that we're looking at today, the first transaction I have is a 1st of May rent charge for £500. And if I go to the reconciliation screen, Xero has used that date and the reference and the amount and put together that this 1st of May £500 rent charge transaction is the best match for this statement line. To reconcile that, I'm just going to click OK. And what that has done has linked that invoice with that bank statement line and created a payment now because we're indicating that that invoice has now been paid. And when we sync back to Arthur, a rent received transaction is going to appear on the statement. We'll look at that a little bit later. Next transaction we're going to be looking at is this 15th of May £250 received transaction on my statement. But if we look at the tenancy statement on Arthur, we can see that on the 15th of May, the rental invoice for that period was £500. So it looks like the tenant has only paid half of their rent this time. So what we're going to do to settle this is go to Find a Match. It's going to bring us to the Find a Match screen where we have a search bar and transactions here in this first box. I'm going to input my tenant reference and find the related invoice. So here we've got the 15th of May 500 invoice, which was sent out for this period. Now, as you can see, if I select this payment, I'm not able to reconcile because it's out by 250. So what I'm going to do is click Split, and Xero is going to automatically assume that a part payment of £250 has been made relating to this transaction. And when I click Split, what that is going to do is create another 250 rent invoice, which will sit until the next installment of the rent is paid. And then it means that I'm going to be able to reconcile this 250 right now by just clicking Reconcile. And when we sync back to Arthur, what's going to happen in this case is 250 is going to come through and be allocated to the invoice, but there's still going to be 250 outstanding there. So the next transaction we're going to be looking at is a £576 received from the 1st of June. And as I can see in the details, this seems to be for rent and something else. But if I go onto Arthur, we can see that on the 1st of June, there was a £500 rental invoice, but then also a £76 disbursement for a broken shower. So it looks like the tenant has paid for both the rent and the disbursement in the same payment. To deal with this, we're just going to go to Find a Match. Search my tenant reference and find those two transactions. So as we can see, we've got the 1st of June rental transaction and then that £76 disbursement for the broken shower. And if I select both those transactions, it's going to allow me to reconcile them both against this one payment. So to do this, I'm just going to click Reconcile. And when we sync back to Arthur, both the £76 disbursement and the £500 rent charge is going to be dealt with and no longer outstanding. So the last transaction we're going to be looking at here is this 2nd of June rental invoice for £500. If we look at the bank statement, though, it looks like we've received £3 over the rental amount. So the tenant has overpaid their rent. To deal with this on Xero, what we're going to want to do is click Find a Match, untick any transactions that Xero thinks it might be related to, type in my tenant reference, and I'm going to find the 2nd of June rent charge there. That one there. And what I'm going to do is head down to the second box here and add a new transaction. I'm going to click Receive Money. Received as a overpayment. Give a reference. And as you can see, Xero's automatically calculated that we need to add a rental overpayment of £3. And to add this on, I'm just going to click Save Transaction. As we can see now in the bottom box here, I've got the £500 rental invoice from Arthur, and then also a £3 overpayment, which is now sitting in this bottom box. And now I'm just going to click Reconcile. All that's going to do is create a £3 overpayment, which will now sit on the tenant statement, able to be allocated to future rent. You can also refund this amount by just going onto the tenant statement here in Arthur and creating a tenancy refund in Arthur by making a negative amount, syncing it over to Xero, and then adding a cash refund. So now that we've reconciled all the rental transactions on this tenant statement, what I'm going to be doing is syncing the receipts back so we can remit to the property owner. So just going to bear 2 minutes to just wait for the data to sync back from Xero. And I'm going to do a tenancy specific sync by going to More, synchronize this tenancy with Xero, and then clicking Synchronize. This could take a few minutes. As you can see, Sync's just going through its different modules to bring over all the data successfully. Should be done in a couple of seconds. So there we go. The sync's been successful. So if I just refresh that page, as we can see, all those tenancy receipts have been coming through successfully, which is great. And the only outstanding amount is the $250 that is still left on the tenant statement from them not paying the full amount on the 15th of May. Now what we're going to be going over is the landlord remittance side of that. So now that we've received the rent from Xero, this is great. And if we go to the property owner statement, we switch it from tenant rent statement to property owner statement. We can see that we have some management fees here. So we've got some management fees that have been deduced from the tenancy receipts that we've received. So here we've got a 1st of May management fee charge for £50 and 10% VAT. This £50 has been derived from the £500 tenancy receipt that we just received from Xero. And if we look, we've got all those tenancy receipts that have now been added to the property owner statement and are now going to be able to be remitted to the property owner. So there's a few different ways that we can get to the property owner screen. The quickest, easiest way is to just click remit to property owner at the top here, which will bring us to the property owner remittance screen. Another way would be to just go to financials on the left-hand side and then go to property owner remittance. And that's going to bring us to the exact same screen. What I'm going to do is search my tenant reference and find the related property owner. So my property owner in this case is Darren and Co. Just going to find the related property owner. So here we have property owner Darren and Co, a new owner here, the tenancy reference for my tenant, and we are remitting by property. So I'm just going to select transactions to remit. And that's going to bring me to the property owner remittance page. Here we are able to select all the different transactions that are relating to my specific property owner here. And I'm going to tick all the ones that we've been dealing with in this webinar. So I'm going to untick all the management fees that aren't related in this sense. So I've selected the related management fees and included the tenancy receipts that we've now received from Xero. And we've got the correct amount there at the bottom. What we want to do now is just click remit transactions. And what that's going to do is bring us to the remittance page. Going to give a remittance date of the 2nd of June. And here it's important to go over what we have is a split remittance function here. So to add a split remittance, whether you have two property owners in one company which get different parts of the payment, or if you have withheld tax for a property owner, then you can add these split remittance types here. To get to there, what you want to do is head to contacts, property owners, Find the related property owner and click the I logo. It's going to bring you to the summary screen for this particular property owner. And then here on the right-hand side, we've got split payments and tax. And if you click on this tab here, it's going to show you all the different splits we have for this particular property owner and this remittance. So I have a 100% split amount with 20% withheld tax. To add a split, all you want to do is click add remittance charge and fill in the details here and make sure you select the correct bank account and add in the splits and then just click save remittance. To remove a split, you just want to click delete and that will remove the split for you. If I refresh the screen, find our remittance here. And click remit. We can see we've got the full amount 1510. I'm going to add a remittance date, 2nd of June. Make sure it's got connected to the right bank account, the one that you're going to be reconciling with in Xero. And then to finalize that remittance transaction, we're just going to click remit to property owner. In the top right hand side, you can see that the owner has been notified of the remittance. So that means that on this particular account, I have an automated event which sends an email to the property owner as soon as I create a remittance transaction. And if I go to the property owner contact screen that we were on to add a split payment and I go to statement, we can see that we have this 2nd of June 1510 remittance transaction, which we're going to sync over to Xero by going to financials, go to Xero screen, synchronize, and I'm going to select PO transactions, so property owner transactions specifically, so I can get that remittance over to be reconciled. I'm just going to click synchronize. And if we head over to the Xero bank reconciliation page, we're going to dashboard, reconcile items, finding the related statement line. You can see that we have, on the 2nd of June, we paid 1510 to the landlord straight out the bank account. And now Arthur has synced over that 1510 overpayment property owner remittance. And to reconcile that, we're just going to click OK. So we've now reconciled the rent. We created the remittance transaction on Arthur, and then we synced over and then reconciled the remittance transaction. Final thing we're going to be going over for the Xero side of the reconciliation is just by talking about how to undo a reconciled transaction. To do that, we're just going to go to account transactions, and I'm going to search my tenant reference in the top here. And as we can see, all the transactions related to the tenant that we've just been reconciled will come up here. And it's important to note that what the function we want to use is remove and redo, not unreconcile, because by using remove and redo, what we're doing is both removing the link between the statement line and the transaction, but also deleting the payment created. If you use unreconcile, all you're going to be doing is removing the link and not deleting that payment, which could end up in a build-up of payment transactions, which will imbalance your data on Xero. So we're just going to click remove and redo. And that's going to remove the link between those 5 transactions that we reconciled and make it look like we haven't done any reconciliation at all. Set us straight back to the beginning. Going to do the same thing for the remittance transaction as well. So that 1510, just going to click it. And remove and redo that transaction as well. To remove the overpayment, you'll need to remove the credit allocations first. So all the particular credits that are associated with the overpayment. And here we have all those credits here. So if we delete the credit allocation, we can now see that it's a waiting payment. and then we can remove and redo that transaction there. So with undoing and removing and redoing a payment, just make sure you remove the credit allocation. Now we're going to be moving on to the QuickBooks part of the demo. To get to the QuickBooks Online screen within Arthur, we're going to want to head to Financials here on the left, and then go to QuickBooks Online screen. Same way in the Xero sense, in that this screen is going to display all the different elements which are connected to QuickBooks Online via Arthur. And you're going to be able to enter any of those sections on the right-hand side here. To sync QuickBooks and Arthur, we're going to want to go to Synchronize. And the two sections at the top here, which are Mode and Sync All Records, all gives you the ability to select any part of financials that you want to sync specifically with QuickBooks, which you can select and then click Synchronize. To schedule an automatic sync with QuickBooks, you want to go to Synchronize History, Configuration, and here you're going to see the frequency in which you'd want an automatic sync to occur. I'm going to select every day, change this to 6 a.m. That means at 6 a.m. every day, an automatic sync will occur, and I'm just going to click Update Configuration. Also on this page, we'll be able to view every single sync which has happened on the system and view the individual log here on the right-hand side. We're going to be able to see when it started and finished, and the specific lines in the sync themselves we can see by going to View Log. We also have boxes up here to see any warning or status error messages to potentially identify any problems that might have occurred during the sync. Final way to sync with QuickBooks would be via the tenancy. To do this, you want to go to Tenancies, click within your tenancy reference, go to More, and then sync this tenancy with QuickBooks. This allows you to sync just the transactions and data specific to this individual tenancy on this screen. If I go to the QuickBooks Online screen now, and I head to Banking, this is where we're going to be doing all the reconciliation within QuickBooks. Click within the related bank account, and all the transactions for review will be here displayed in the for review section. The first transaction we're going to be looking at is a £500 received transaction on the 1st of May. If I check my Arthur statement, I can see that the tenant was invoiced £500 on this date. So what I'm going to do is click within the statement line and select the invoice related. As we can see, for that particular tenant, that amount and that date, the invoice for TR4008 is the correct amount. And to match that, I'm just going to click Match. What that has done is the transaction has been matched and has been moved to the reviewed section, and a payment transaction has been created and will sync back to Arthur. Second one we're going to be looking at is this 15th of May 250 transaction. And if I look at the Arthur statement, the 15th of May rent charge was for £500. So it looks like the tenant has paid half their rent for this period. To deal with this, what we're going to do is click Find Other Records, untick this payment, and then find the invoice which is related to. So in this case, it'd be this 15th of May £500 invoice. And by selecting this invoice, what QuickBooks has assumed that 250 of this should be allocated and 250 should be left outstanding. By clicking Save, what that has done is we've split the transaction and it's now been matched and moved to a reviewed section. Next one we're going to be looking at is the 1st of June £500 rent charge and a £76 disbursement for a broken shower. And if we look at the QuickBooks page, it looks like the tenant has paid both these transactions at the same time. So what we're going to do is click Find a Match. And as we can see, we've got, we'll untick that transaction because it didn't look right. And what we're going to do is select the invoice for the 1st of June for the 76 amount, and I'm going to find the rental amount for the 1st of June for this tenant as well. And there we go, selected the 2 transactions for 576, and then just going to click save. Those transactions have now been matched to that one statement line, and it's been moved into the reviewed section. Final transaction we're going to be looking at is this £503 received transaction on the 2nd of June. If we look on the Arthur statement, the invoice for this period was £500, so it looks like the tenant has overpaid by £3. To deal with this, what we're going to do is we're going to click within the statement line, click find and match, find the related invoice, so that'll be the 2nd of June for our tenant Clark here, and we're going to want to click this resolve button here. What that has done is assume that we should add a resolving transaction, so an overpayment here at the bottom. I'm going to select a VAT code, and by clicking save, we've now created a £3 overpayment, which will sync back to Arthur and will be able to be matched against further rental invoices. And it's now been moved into the for reviewed section. To unreconcile any of these transactions, all we want to do is go to reviewed and then click undo on the right hand side here. And that will bring any transactions we've reconciled back over to the for review section. To get those payments that we just reconciled on QuickBooks back into Arthur, what I'm going to do is head back to Arthur and perform a tenancy specific sync. I'm going to go to more and synchronize this tenancy with QuickBooks. Start synchronize. And by doing this, we're going to be bringing over all those newly created payment transactions that we just made by matching all those invoices. That sync is now finished. So click off the sync here, refresh the screen. All those payments have been brought through, as well as that 250 that was part paid, and 250 is still left outstanding now. What we're going to want to do now is remit these rents to the property owner. To do this, I'm just going to want to click remit to property owner. That'll bring us to the remittance screen here. And as we can see, we've got the property owner for our tenant here. To remit to him, we're just going to want to select transactions and remit. The management fee charges and the tenancy receipts are all here. The amount looks correct, so all I'm going to want to do is click remit transactions, which will bring us to the property owner remittance screen here, where I'm going to select a date and a bank account and click remit to property owner. What that is going to do is create a remittance transaction on the property owner statement, which we are going to want to sync over to QuickBooks so we can reconcile that £1,510 transaction with the money that left our bank account to pay this landlord. So I'm going to go to synchronize and do a property owner transactions sync and click start synchronize. What this is going to do is bring over that 1510 remittance transaction that we just created. That synchronization is finished. So if we head back over to QuickBooks, refresh our screen, in the client account, click within this transaction. As you can see, that's 2nd of June, 1510 payment to our property owner has come through. And what we are going to want to do is just click match. All that has done is matched that remittance transaction with the 1510 amount that left our bank account, and that property owner remittance has now been dealt with. To view the remittance, we can view this actually on the tenancy screen. If we just go within the tenancy reference, go to statement and switch the tenant rent statement to the PO statement. And as we can see, all the transactions on the property owner statement have been dealt with and associated with this 1510 remittance at the top here, which we've now reconciled in QuickBooks. Now is the time for questions. So we're going to be doing a Q&A portion for the remainder of the time of this webinar. So if you have any questions regarding the Xero and QuickBooks integration for property managers, or any questions about the integration at all for that matter, I will answer them now. So please just put it in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and I will answer as many as I can.
If there are no questions, then I'd like to say thank you very much for attending this webinar. If you have any questions that you forgot to ask, please do email them to support@arthuronline.co.uk. And if you have any suggestions for future webinars, please let us know also at support@arthuronline.co.uk. Please let us know any topics you want to cover, and we will go over them in our weekly webinar series. But thank you very much for attending, and I hope you enjoyed the session. The sessions will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel and also on our website. Thank you very much.